Hi, I'm at home with COVID. I have been isolated for 5 days now, and I'm getting better. Um, I'm so bored. So I found this dream I had, and I remember this dream pretty well, that I had when I was pregnant with my son. And so I'm writing this on August 17th, 2014. And I say, and I actually say I had this dream a couple of months ago. So I was not written down immediately after. So that's important. I met a creature from another planet. It was the highest form of life on that planet. It was larger than us, humans, but only slightly. Its limbs were larger as well, almost inflated looking, thick and meaty. All of it was thicker and covered with more hair, slightly shaggy hair on all its body. It wasn't scary. The whole experience was neutral. I share this because certainly one of my curiosities is, will there be more overt connection between our planet and another, like, alien community in my lifetime? In retrospect, as I remember this dream, and memory is a shifty thing, in retrospect, I remember this planet being really pure, and the creatures being very peaceful, and having honed I want to call it spiritual communication. But it might also just be considered like mirror neuron communication, like, telepathy, as we call it. Basically being able to read, what another person is communicating without them speaking it. And so for me, like, everything exists in consciousness. Like, the mind is really one thing that we're all tapped into to some extent or another. And so they used that, superhighway really effectively. Again, this is all in retrospect. However, as I consider, to what degree communication, especially through technology, may already be happening, or at least an exchange of information may already be happening through our digital means with an alien nation or more. I guess I also consider, to what degree will those we come into contact with first be, like, healthier than us or unhealthier than us? And I'm sure, like, to me, it makes sense that there would be both out there. Some that are healthier than us, some that are unhealthy, less healthy than us. So these are all, like, questions floating in my mind, and there's a sense of how much work we have to do to get our shit together here, and how we have the means to sync up logistically in a lot of ways. However, getting the minds of people on board is challenging. Not impossible, challenging. And I go back to, a universal language, which has been attempted, and hoped for by a lot of people in the past. And I think it's still a really great idea. And I mean, even if everybody learns sign language, and not that sign language is an equitable language, because there are people who don't have two hands, and there are people who don't have the use of their fingers for whatever reason. So finding an equitable language is hard. However, it still seems important for unity to have a universal language. And it also just seems like a natural process of readying ourselves for extraterrestrial communication. So yeah, just different thoughts that are in my head as I'm stuck at home with COVID. And just considering the state of the world right now. And the other thing that I see and I feel personally is that life is a matter of, or like existence is kind of like a coin with two sides. One side that is more form, and one side that is less form. So one side that is life and one side that is more spiritual, and more intuitive. And so one like dichotomy that I perceive is society versus spirit, and that there's a groupthink process, and people can get stuck in society and be anchored there and not be anchored in their soul. And so it's like sheep, right? Like we call it, like just sheep, moving along, just following everybody else, instead of following, right, how their spirit moves them. And there's some really great passages out there from writers of all kind about this dichotomy of, society versus intuition. As a healer and a teacher, I often reflect on that, because as I'm trying to help people trust themselves, know themselves, and trust themselves, and connect, it's just seemed really important to me to know how to help them navigate that, and what am I navigating them toward. And I believe that intuition is an embodied thing. It seems to me like it is. So maybe a channel that runs down the center of the brain, into the heart and the gut, and then sort of spreads out. So getting people in touch with that, I think, is super important to, funny enough, like getting the world in sync, because the more that you are anchored in your intuition, the more harmonious things seem to be, and the more things just seem to flow and connect well. So yeah, it's kind of a funny opposite, but it seems to me that actually taking people out of society and dropping them into their intuition is the path